tonight on 5.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jill Neubronner, and here are your top stories on News 5. Upgraded living conditions at foreign worker dorms to make life easier for those recovering from COVID-19. Singapore reports 932 new coronavirus infections, taking the tally past 17,000. Most businesses in Malaysia to reopen from Monday after more than a month in lockdown due to the pandemic. And the first batch of former nurses start refresher courses, preparing to join the fight against COVID-19. Foreign workers living in dormitories can expect enhanced facilities to help them recover from COVID-19. The update from the multi-ministry task force comes 3 weeks after Forward Assurance and Support Teams, or FAST, were deployed to the dorms. Now, foreign workers in dormitories continue to make up the bulk of the daily new infections.
With systems to meet their basic needs and provide medical care now firmly in place, authorities are now looking to step up care for migrant workers in the most affected dormitories. On-site community care facilities, or CCFs, which house patients who test positive for the virus but have mild symptoms, will be set up within selected dorms. This means they no longer have to wait to be transferred to an external medical facility. In the same vein, community recovery facilities, or CRFs, to look after patients who are no longer infectious will be opened, also at selected dorms. And once a patient has recovered, they will be housed in specially designated blocks for recovered workers. The entire recovery plan will require some residents to be relocated. Authorities will work with dormitory operators to progressively create more of such spaces, with the end goal to enable the dormitory population to eventually resume work safely. The task force added the approach needs to move beyond just where the migrant workers are housed.
We will have to develop new strategies to monitor the health of the workers. I should add that it's not just what happens where the workers are housed. It is also what happens at the workplace. Even at work sites or elsewhere, the arrangements will have to change, and we will have to look seriously at how these workers can be kept safe if and when they are able to resume work.
The task force also shared that in terms of manpower, a total of close to 3,000 staff are now dedicated to supporting dorms. When it comes to the wider community, the task force said Singapore must brace itself for a long battle beyond the extended circuit breaker.
I think it would be premature for anyone, whether in Singapore or anywhere in the world, to assume that once we pass this particular wave, then say in June, July, the world will be free from COVID and life will be able to resume. No one can say that. And experts are already worrying about a second wave of infection around the world that may well coincide with the flu season and may be even more devastating than what we have today. So the basic posture has to be that we are in for a long fight. We have to remain vigilant and relax or adjust the measures very gradually depending on the situation.
It added a comprehensive plan that will provide guidelines on how all workers can resume activities is also in the works.
Up to 7,000 care packages will be distributed to foreign workers who have recovered from COVID-19. Delivery of the care pack started today. Each pack contains items like toiletries, clothes and sanitizers, and they will come in handy when the workers are relocated after being discharged from the hospital. The initiative is spearheaded by a charity arm of the Hindu Endowments Board, with more than 25 Hindu temples and organizations raising over $100,000. Well, Singapore has reported 932 new cases of COVID-19 today, taking the tally to 17,101. The Health Ministry says the majority of the new infections continue to be migrant workers staying in dormitories. 5 new cases are Singaporeans or permanent residents. Meanwhile, the stay-home notice for foreign workers in the construction sector has been extended by 2 weeks until the 18th of May. The move affects all work permit and S-Pass holders along with their dependents. It comes as the number of infected foreign workers living outside of dormitories continues to rise. A joint statement by the Manpower Ministry, Health Ministry and the Building and Construction Authority says these workers are different from those who had served their stay-home notice in isolation, and that's because they are likely to live in shared accommodation and have continued interactions with one another. Authorities hope the extension will help to break the cycle of transmission. To help affected employers, the Singapore Contractors Association Limited is setting up a COVID-19 fund for SMEs. President Halimah Yacob has highlighted that home-based businesses are an important source of income for many who have lost their jobs or income during the pandemic. Madam Halimah says these businesses are predominantly run by women, usually with caregiving responsibilities. She is glad they now automatically qualify for the Temporary Relief Fund when they register with the Singapore Malay Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She also hopes the Malay Chamber will assist them so they can benefit from the higher demand during this period. Madam Halimah says she buys Hari Raya cookies from home-based businesses every year and is looking forward to doing the same this year when the circuit breaker restrictions are lifted. Her post comes after the government announced last Tuesday that such businesses would no longer be allowed to operate under enhanced circuit breaker measures. Well, this May Day, unionists have called on companies to retain as many workers as possible, despite the economic uncertainties sparked by the coronavirus.
Hard hit by the pandemic, unions in various industries say any retrenchment should be the last resort. The Food, Drinks and Allied Workers Union says it managed to convince some companies to hold back on such moves, more so in light of the job support scheme where the government pays 3/4 of the first $4,600 of wages.
Of the hotel industry has the thought, but they're holding back right now. So these companies are now looking at their numbers to sit down and take a look as in how much can they save the wages and keep jobs for the workers.
Take for example, instead of laying off them, we could actually explore redeployment. So basically, there are many essential services out there who require workers to be with them. Take for example, healthcare, take for example, retail, supermarkets, operations, so on and so forth.
A silver lining there is how the pandemic is accelerating a shift in mindsets, something that will help workers adapt following a point in the Prime Minister's May Day speech to new ways of doing things.
None of us would actually utilize technology that extensively. With this circuit breaker period, I think many of us have already experienced the way how we actually work from home, or rather how we actually telecommute. So I think this would be one of the opportunity that the organization or the employers could actually explore.
I think for most of CCAs and whether it's sports or arts or freelance education centers, they're actually virtual. Having it virtual is a very effective way to do it. And I do think that moving forward, this will have to be the way for quite a while. And we are prepared to do it.
Looking ahead, if it comes down to retrenchment, unions say companies should do so responsibly, such as by matching the workers released to other jobs.
Still ahead on News 5, a milestone moment for China as Hubei becomes the last province to lower its response level.
We are here to help. We are not here to impose it.
The trials and tribulations of being a transport ambassador. Stay with us.
My Mitsubishi Electric StarMax aircon saves me energy and money. It's easy to clean and is so quiet.
Is my trusted pain medication at work. At home, I recommend Panadol to my family as well, whenever they experience headaches or pain. Paracetamol leaves your body naturally within 24 hours. Trust Panadol. Effective on pain, gentle on you. This has been Medifax for Panadol.
This is Val. Val lives in Jurong. Here's the thing about Val. She's your ex. Pro tip, don't stay near your ex. Find your new home with 99.co's advanced search options. Search using multiple MRTs, travel time, and by district. With over 150,000 real listings, finding a place to live is fast and easy. And it's on both mobile and web. The best part? You'll never have to see your ex again. 99.co, the smarter way to search for property.
As Singapore battles COVID-19, there are those who work tirelessly and quietly go the extra mile. From the hawker who pledged free meals to the elderly, to the cleaners keeping our estates clean. These are our invisible heroes. Share your invisible hero with us. Let us know why we should appreciate them more. Visit sginvisibleheroes.com. Let's celebrate our heroes doing their part to keep Singapore going.
Hello again. Now, Malaysia will allow most businesses to reopen on Monday after a nearly 6-week nationwide lockdown. Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin says the country is ready to begin a controlled and cautious reopening of economic activity. Malaysia has 6,000 coronavirus infections, but that number of new cases has eased in recent weeks with less than 100 infections reported daily.
Sebahagian besar daripada aktiviti ekonomi dan sosial akan dibenarkan, kecuali beberapa aktiviti yang melibatkan perhimpunan ramai dan mendedahkan orang awam kepada risiko jangkitan wabak COVID-19 yang masih tidak dibenarkan.
Most businesses will have to adhere to strict social distancing measures once they reopen. However, other businesses that involve crowds, such as cinemas, will remain closed. Schools will also stay shut, while religious activities and large gatherings are still banned. The Prime Minister says some $14 billion has been lost as a result of the economic standstill. China's Hubei province will lower its COVID-19 emergency response level tomorrow. It is the final province in the country to downgrade its alert to the second highest level after months of strict lockdown measures. The coronavirus first emerged in Hubei's provincial capital, Wuhan, back in December. Hubei has not reported new infections for nearly a month now. Hong Hong Kong riot police have dispersed protesters at a shopping mall today. Dozens of anti-government demonstrators had gathered at Sha Tin's New Town Plaza, defying a ban on gatherings during the pandemic. Reports say pepper spray was used. Protests have recently reignited in Hong Kong as the city gradually relaxes restrictions. Singapore has reaffirmed its commitment to facilitate cross-border flows with Australia, Canada, South Korea and New Zealand. Trade and Industry Minister Chan Chun Sing and his fellow counterparts have issued a joint statement saying they will work on guidelines to prepare for a resumption of essential cross-border travel while balancing public health considerations. The move aims to maintain global supply chains during the pandemic. Starting today, Changi Airport's Terminal 2 will be suspended for 1.5 years. Changi Airport Group is consolidating operations as passenger traffic has plummeted due to COVID-19. But closing T2 doesn't mean things will come to a standstill. The time will be used to speed up upgrading and expansion plans. 14 airlines currently operate out of T2. 10 have temporarily suspended operations. All Nippon Airways and Royal Brunei will move to Terminal 1 and the Singapore Airlines and Etihad Airways will move to Terminal 3. With T2 on pause, Changi will scale back its total capacity of 85 million passengers by about 1/4. Well, let's go back a few months to trace what led to this. In January, Singapore advised a caution in travelling to Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak. Singapore's first imported case was confirmed on the 23rd of January. On the same day, China commenced its lockdown of major cities. And more than a week later, Singapore placed restrictions on those with recent travel to mainland China. Within a month, the virus had spread to about 100 countries. And in a matter of days, the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic. One by one, governments issued travel advisories and borders were shut. By mid-March, Singapore had advised residents to defer all travel. A week later, short-term visitors could no longer enter or transit. As containment continues in many countries, few are travelling and more than 100 airlines have cut their capacity and at least 40 have grounded their flights. Singapore Airlines hasn't been immune. On the 17th of March, it cut its scheduled capacity by half. And within a week, capacity was slashed 96% and it grounded most of its planes. From more than 130 destinations, the group now only flies to 15 cities. With many airlines in dire straits, Changi Airport has gone from one flight landing or taking off every 80 seconds to fewer than 40 passenger flights a day in April, and that's based on CNA's calculations. The last time Changi faced a crisis like this, it was during the 2003 SARS crisis. Back then, Changi averaged about 300 flights a day in the worst 2 months. According to the International Air Transport Association, international air traffic then took about 9 months to recover. I want to remind you also that you can start your weekdays with more news like that on CNA 938 World Report every morning at 6. It's a complete wrap of news and business from around the globe. Plus, there's all your Singapore news and traffic. And that's at News Talk radio station CNA 938. Well, up next on News 5, food businesses get creative as they try to attract customers. Plus, former nurses get a refresher course to join the fight against COVID-19.
Weather Report brought to you by Mitsubishi Electric.
The resilience and solidarity budgets will help businesses stay afloat in these difficult times. $21.7 billion will flow to businesses as wage supported this year. In April and May, the wage subsidy for all local workers will be increased from 25% to 75% and will remain at 25% from June till end 2020. Sectors badly affected by the COVID-19 outbreak will get more help. The government will co-fund up to 75% of wages in the aviation, tourism and F&B sectors until end 2020. Taxi and private car drivers will receive $300 a month. The arts and culture sector will get help to save jobs, upskill and digitalize. Tax payments for companies and self-employed persons will be deferred for 3 months. Tenants at government-managed properties will receive up to 3 months of rental waivers. More companies will receive property tax rebates. Those most affected by COVID-19 will have the tax waived. The government will ensure that property owners pass on the property tax rebate in full to tenants. The foreign worker levy, due in April and May, will be waived. Employers will also receive a $1,500 levy rebate for each eligible worker. Companies will have access to credit through enhanced financing schemes. $20 billion loan capital will be set aside to support companies with strong capabilities and catalyze private sector loan capital.
Let us unite, demonstrate our resilience, stay united, and press on in solidarity. Together, we will emerge stronger from this.
Only Yakult has billions of LKC strain Shirota to help suppress harmful bacteria in the intestines. Every day, over 40 million people worldwide are drinking Yakult to help maintain a healthy digestive system. Yakult.
Ooh, delivery! Fish and chips are my favorite.
No dear, it should be fish and chips is my favorite.
Why not R? There are two things.
Should be is. Fish and chips is one dish.
I'm certain it's R.
Let's connect. Let's speak good English.
Painful, inflamed sore throat? Reach for Difflam lozenges. They relieve the pain and swelling and help fight throat infection. Don't let a sore throat spoil your day. Reach for Difflam anti-inflammatory antibacterial lozenges.
Number 1, immunity support that maintains your immunity.
Welcome back, everyone. The first batch of former nurses have started their refresher course as they prepare to join the fight against COVID-19. They are part of 3,000 healthcare professionals who have volunteered for the SG Healthcare course since it was launched last month.
Before these nurses enter the battlefield to serve at the front line and help to contain the COVID-19 outbreak, they had to arm themselves with the latest knowledge. So it's down to Nanyang Polytechnic to attend the Back to Nursing practice course.
We aim to update participants' skills and knowledge to let them become more confident and competent in their clinical roles, especially after being away from nursing for some time. It is very practice-centered. The main focus will be on helping them refresh and relearn the skills that they previously acquired during their nursing courses. And in terms of content, we will equip them with skills to respond to current and future healthcare needs.
NYP has 12 participants in this pilot run, and one of the return nurses is 33-year-old Han Yi Ling. She was working at a fintech firm before deciding to rejoin the service.
The first person I discussed was my husband, definitely. So he's actually very supportive, and he's actually very proud that, I'm actually going back to the front line during this situation as well.
The mother of two shares that she's prepared to face the risks involved.
To step up to help the nation in this crisis. I think a certain level of risk it will be there, right? So the most I can do is really just to be extra careful and to follow the necessary protocols.
44-year-old Chuang Mei Mei signed up on the SG Healthcare Core website after learning that a relative in New York died from the virus. Having attended the first week of lessons, she realizes there have been many changes to the practice since she left the profession in 2010.
I'm learning to adjust and cope with all the changes, because there are like new, updated, things, information, and even certain things are obsolete, so I have to update myself to be equipped to be able to so-called being there in the hospital setting or in the medical fronts.
Other ex-nurses returning to the sector are being trained at the Institute of Technical Education. The refresher course is geared to train volunteers who are former practicing enrolled nurses or current enrolled nurses working outside the public healthcare system. One former enrolled nurse is 29-year-old Sajida Akbar, an air stewardess with Singapore Airlines.
My training got postponed. And at the same time, my friends who were in Singapore Airlines, they shared me the link and they said we should now join back nursing because they have shortage of nurses in hospital now and they really need us. So why not we help them?
She admits she's a bit concerned, but she has since put that aside to do her part.
To be honest, I'm worried. I'm nervous, of course, but I do not know what to expect. But one thing for sure is that I'm ready to give my support and to be back in the healthcare setting because I know how it feels to be a nurse and when you do not have enough manpower and you are the only one juggling all the work. So I think I'm really ready to be there to give my support. And this is the main reason why I signed up for the course.
20 taxi drivers have signed up to be transport ambassadors. Their new role will see them deployed at MRT stations to ensure safe distancing. It's all part of a program to give them an alternative income as rides have fallen. We spoke to one of the new diplomats in training.
63-year-old Mr. Rong SK signed up to be a transport ambassador 2 weeks ago. His job is to ensure that commuters adhere to safe distancing measures on public transport. He says these measures must be taken seriously if Singapore is to get over the COVID-19 pandemic quickly.
You just take this yellow line, just go to see straight whether they are standing in and out, whether they are in a straight line, more or less you will know whether they are social distancing. If they crowd around, you can more or less see because they will somehow stand behind there. So if some people you will able to see two persons standing. The initial part they will give you the kind of look. Stare at you, that kind of thing. If they are standing close to each other, talking to their friends, or sharing some phones, images. So when we tell them, they mean that quite reluctant to move off lah. And then we explain to them again, this is for your well-being. Just let's observe the social distancing. So they become to understand, and then they become quite apologetic about the whole thing. Now much better than the earlier 2 weeks ago. More of awareness. They have more or less get used to it. It's something like new normal to them. We are here to help. We are not here to impose. We want to pull through this epidemic or this crisis ASAP back to normal life. This is what I mean. My personal aspirations and my personal hope. Some commuter they come and say thank you to you, that kind of thing. You see, they know what the whole thing is all about. Then they were able to express their appreciations. It's not so much appreciation; it's that they themselves come to know the seriousness of the whole thing. And that's how I feel it's very fulfilling. We find the true spirit of Singaporean. We are really united.
From live streaming the day's seafood selection to hosting virtual wine sampling sessions, food businesses are pulling out all the stops online to bolster sales during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Hello everybody, 晚上好.
This fishmonger hawks squirming prawns, grouper fish, and stingrays using Facebook Live, and he's reeling in the rewards. Lianhua Seafood has seen orders surge by 50% since it switched to selling purely via live streaming due to the ongoing pandemic. Hungry consumers snap up nearly 400 boxes of seafood daily. The first to post a comment on Facebook gets the fish he or she picks.
他们跟我买也是方便，就是不需要说去wet market或者去 去那边去跟人家人挤人啊，去买那些东西。
But there's a catch. He needs to expand his team of 15 people to keep up. And he can't hire workers from Malaysia because of its partial lockdown.
你一个人挂到明天，你还送不出，而且你送到顾客的手上，你要保持那个海鲜的 freshness。如果那个海鲜不新鲜，顾客跟你 complain 一下，你要赔钱。
Some products have a longer shelf life, but with revenue dipping by about 80% since the circuit breaker began, the wine and gourmet friends had to think out of the box. The restaurant held its first virtual wine tasting with about 20 customers. Unlike regular tastings, they bought their wine before the free session. For them, it was a rare chance to interact with the winemaker and socialize.
Through this session, we really find out more about it. And some of the other wines that they mentioned actually caught my attention as well.
The restaurant says sales have gone up since the session by as much as double the next day.
So what we need to do is actually, along the way, learn and adapt. If you talk about sustainability, if let's say I'm going to hold on to my old practices, right, waiting for people to call in, I don't think it will be sustainable.
Those going for future sessions could be treated to this immersive tour of a vineyard in South Australia to get a behind-the-scenes peek into wine production.
Summertime, we'll actually do tastings out.
Well, that's it for News 5, but do join us again tomorrow. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
This program is available on demand for free on MeWatch.
Tonight on 5.
Parental guidance is advised for the following program.